starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 511 Clues. This huge energy directly obliterated Mo Shat. At this moment, Zhou was frightened when he saw this. The frog immediately said, "Don't just watch. Quick, take everything." When Zhou heard this, he hurriedly took a step forward. This Mo Sha's mental strength had been wiped out by the mental graveyard, but his treasures were not wiped out. Zhou quickly found a storage bag that had the ability to open up an independent space. Zhou ignored everything and threw this thing into his backpack before hurriedly leaving this space. Just as Zhou walked out, this space instantly disappeared. Everything along with Mo Sha completely disappeared from this mental graveyard. This place is really freaking evil. The frog shuddered and could not help but say, "Let's go and trick the last one. Once this is over, we'll leave quickly." Zhou also nodded. Now, his urge to leave had become stronger. Without wasting any time, Zhou arrived at another tunnel and quickly entered a strange space. There was nothing in this space. It was completely blank and only had a corpse floating in it. Zhou frowned. This guy seemed to be very poor. There were no decorations in the space. The two mental spaces just now all had some scenery, be it the mountains and clear water or gloomy decorations. On the other hand, this place was empty and desolate. When the frog saw this, it was stunned for a moment, especially after seeing this person. It could not help but say to Zhou, "It's actually a big shot from the leader lineage. This old thing must have some good treasure." Zhou was stunned for a moment and could not help but ask, "What's the leader lineage?" "It means that they're the true rulers of the Moro race. Logically speaking, they shouldn't be buried in such a small space. What's going on?" The frog was very surprised, but it did not care too much. At the same time, the corpse trembled. Immediately, the corpse floated over. Only then did Zhou see that it was an old man in a white robe. A mental health master? Hehe, I haven't seen one in so many years. I didn't expect a mental health master to come here after my Moro race was destroyed. How interesting. The old man was different from the others. His eyes were not closed and were instead opened. It felt as if this was his true body. Zhou was immediately shocked. Even the frog was the same. Damn, this old fellow actually buried his actual body here. He's really a freaking expert. Moreover, he can also see through our act. The frog was very shocked, but it still spoke. "Senior, we didn't mean to offend you. Sorry for disturbing your rest. Please don't make things difficult for me." The frog took a deep breath and was a little nervous. The old man looked at Zhou and smiled. "It's fine. The Moro race has already been destroyed for so long. Why would I make things difficult for you?" Hearing this, Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. He was very curious, so he asked, "Senior, this is not a mental graveyard. You also don't look like a spirit body, right?" After Zhou asked this question, the old man laughed. "That's right. I'm not a spirit body, but a true physical body. I'm the 11th patriarch of the Moro race and have already fused my physical and mental strength. Therefore, what you're looking at is both my physical body and my mental strength. To fuse the body and mental strength into one?" This was the first time Zhou had heard of such a thing. He was really surprised. Even the frog was the same. "All right, it's useless to talk about this. After so long, the outside world has probably undergone a tremendous change. There's nothing left here, but I can tell you an important secret. The secret about the legacy spirit gem." After the old man finished speaking, Zhou's head turned dizzy. On the other hand, the frog said excitedly, "Are you talking about the Moro race's ultimate treasure, the spirit gem?" The old man nodded with a smile. "That's right, the spirit gem." The frog was extremely excited when it heard this. It's said that the spirit gem can materialize a person's spirit. You might not be able to imagine how impressive this is, but I can tell you right now a materialized spirit is extremely powerful. For one's mental strength to be condensed into a super powerful combat strength, its effect will no longer only be on the mental level, but also on the physical level. For example, you can use this materialized spirit to control any matter. Be it killing or doing anything, your spirit's speed is faster than your body. This is also why martial artists with powerful mental strength had greater lethality. The frog's explanation was easy to understand. After Zhou Hao heard it, he also did not dare to believe it. If that was the case, didn't that mean that one would basically become invincible? Although that's the case, I haven't found anyone who can materialize their mental strength. At the highest level of our Moro race, we can only fuse our mental strength and body into one. We're still unable to materialize our mental strength and turn it into an independent entity. The old man smiled and interrupted Zhou Hao and the frog. Although he said this hope was enough to make anyone crazy. This spirit gem is still in the Moro race. However, this is an inheritance that not everyone can obtain. The Moro race experts had planned this carefully a long time ago. Once the Moro race is destroyed, the inheritance will be left behind. And this inheritance is in the mental world of the Moro race. After the old man finished speaking, his expression was melancholic. To put it bluntly, this mental world is an obsession. All the members of the Moro race don't want to die, so everyone's mental strength is somewhat encapsulated in the spirit gem. Only by obtaining the mental gem can one obtain the inheritance and walk out of the mental world of the Moro race. Otherwise, they will only be lost in the mental world of the Moro race. And what's needed to enter this mental world is an identity. Although you can change your aura, you can't change your mental fluctuations. There are many mental fragments stored in the territory of the Moro race. After obtaining the mental fragment, you will be able to enter the Moro race's mental world. At this point, the old man looked at Zhou Hao and said with a solemn expression, "I want to ask you, have you heard of reviving something that's already dead?" Zhou Hao was immediately confused. Why was this old man suddenly bringing up a ghost story? "Senior, if you're talking about the ghost story by that name, I think I've heard of it," Zhou Hao replied honestly. "Heh, more or less. If you want to enter the mental world of the Moro race, you have to rely on the spirit of others and use their will to bring you into the mental world. However, this will depend on whose will is stronger. If your will is weak, you will only be devoured. If your will is strong, you will be able to wake up in that mental world. Moreover, those who are close to the spirit gem will definitely be people with noble statuses. With your strength, the person with the most powerful identity you can handle is in the 5th mountain, 100 miles away from here." Chapter 512 Su Xiaoyu. 5th Mountain. Hearing this, Zhou Hao was naturally somewhat puzzled. The frog also frowned. The 5th mountain, it does sound a little special. The frog suddenly spoke with surprise in its eyes. "All right, it's getting late. Leave quickly. If you don't leave now, I'm afraid someone will come out to chase after you." After the old man finished speaking, he did not say anything else. Then, he lay down again and floated back to his original position. Zhou Hao bowed deeply and left this space. After coming out, Zhou Hao did not hesitate and hurriedly walked out before Motiantu could find out what was wrong. "Frog, do you think what this senior said is true?" Zhou Hao was a little puzzled. He really did not know much about these things. "It's basically true. I know about the methods of the Moro race. They worship mental strength, so this inheritance naturally has to be related to mental strength. They have left behind a special mental world. In it, I'm afraid it probably resembles the old Moro race. Moreover, as long as any one of you finds the identity to enter that place, you will be able to enter. However, it's easy to enter, but it's difficult to wake up. Once you lose yourself, you will probably only be able to stay there for the rest of your life." The frog's words shocked Zhou Hao and made him hesitate. "Tch, Look at how timid you are. They might not be able to wake up, but you'll probably be fine. Your mental strength is pretty good. After all, with the Genesis runes as the foundation, you're much stronger than them. The frog relieved Zhou, and he nodded. Then what should we do? Should we go to the fifth mountain now? Zhou could not help but ask. It's still early. There are no signs of this mental world waking up at all. I estimate that it will take a few days at least. Didn't you obtain some good things? You should increase your cultivation first. The frog immediately said. Zhou nodded and found a good place to stay before starting to check. What he had obtained from Motianta was indeed a good thing. Zhou had consumed the body tempering fluid before and it was indeed not bad. Therefore, Zhou did not hesitate and directly consumed the body tempering fluid. For an entire day, Zhou sat there and felt the strength of the body tempering fluid, making him shocked. That force washed over his body again and again, cleansing his blood, body, and even bones. This pain was not something an ordinary person could endure. Zhou also gritted his teeth and endured. At the same time, 50 kilometers away from Zhou, a woman in a white dress with a sexy and fiery appearance was speeding over in a tight suit with blood at the corner of her mouth. Behind him, a black burly man with an evil expression was chasing after him. Ha ha ha, Miss Su, don't run anymore. Everyone knows that the women in your auction house are born charming. Today, I want to see if your Eastern woman's body can withstand me. The black man was very disgusting and chased after him with a burning expression. If Zhou saw this, he would definitely be shocked. This was because this woman's appearance was actually 70% similar to Su Xiaoyu. However, looking carefully, this woman was not as tender and soft as Su Xiaoyu. Instead, she was more cold. She was not Su Xiaoyu, but Su Xiaoyu. At this moment, her situation was very bad. She had just been attacked here. Although this was the mental world of the Moro race, there were still some forbidden areas here. As soon as she entered this place, she fell into a mental vortex and was covered in injuries. Just as she came out, she encountered this black man who had been chasing after her for an entire day. Of course, she knew this black man. He was an expert from the African tribe and was the son of the three-continent chief. He had a noble status. Originally, the two of them would not have any interaction. Unexpectedly, she was discovered by the other party right after getting severely injured. Miss Su, don't run. I've been coveting you for a long time. Moreover, you can't escape. You're severely injured, so how can you be my match? The black man laughed as if he was determined to get what he wanted. Su Xiaoyu was very angry, but she could do nothing about it. She could only grit her teeth and run. She really hoped that she could bump into someone she knew. This way, this black man would also restrain himself. Unfortunately, for some reason, she did not discover anyone in this space after running for an entire day. What was going on? Damn, do I really have to get raped by this black man? Su Xiaoyu was very angry. She had not even fallen in love and was about to lose her virginity to a black man? How could she tolerate this? If I can't escape in the end, I'll kill myself and definitely not let him succeed. Su Xiaoyu gritted her teeth and sped up, running around aimlessly. The black man looked at this scene with ridicule in his eyes. He followed behind unhurriedly. After all, this woman was already at her limit. He was not worried at all. Miss Su, you're so beautiful and charming. Your skills in bed must be good, right? I actually have a thing for Eastern women. Unlike Western women, you guys are even more reserved and tasteful. Tisk tisk, it really makes me unable to stop myself. Moreover, you're so beautiful and charming. You must be very enchanting. Miss Su, don't run. There's no one else here. You can't escape. The black man had already made up his mind to toy with Su Xiaoyu here and kill her later to not leave behind any evidence. After all, if news of this spread, he would be implicated. After all, the strength of the auction house was not something he dared to underestimate. Even the son of the three-continent chief did not dare to make too many enemies. Moreover, planet Earth's Huaxia was unofficially the strongest force on planet Earth. He did not dare to offend them easily. Su Xiaoyu was very angry, but it was useless. Her feet became heavier and slower, as if she could collapse at any moment. She was infuriated. Am I really going to die today? She was unwilling, but so what? Therefore, at this moment, she already had the desire to die. However, the black man had always been paying attention. It was precisely because he was worried that Su Xiaoyu would commit suicide that he did not act too forcefully. Now that she was no longer in a good state, the black man immediately sneered when he saw her like this. His speed soared, and he turned into a black shadow that instantly appeared in front of Su Xiaoyu. Su Xiaoyu's expression changed drastically. She was just taking out her dagger to end her life, but who knew that this black man would suddenly appear in front of her? Chapter 513 Solution. Su Xiaoyu was in complete despair because in the next second, the black man slapped away the dagger in her hand. Not only that, but he also used a powerful cultivation to seal her movements, making her unable to move at all. Ha ha ha, Miss Su, I knew you would kill yourself. I've always been waiting for an opportunity. Otherwise, why would I play hide and seek with you for the entire day? The black man laughed happily. At this moment, he had already embraced her and was headed for the ground. At the same time, Zhou had also reached the end of his tempering. He took a deep breath. The blood essence in his body had already completely condensed, but the intense pain still made his expression turn livid. It's almost over. Zhou, hold on. As long as you absorb all this blood essence, it'll be over. The frog nodded. This body tempering fluid was quite good. His body had already gone through a full day and night's baptism and it was still only at 80% completion. Fortunately, he was not far from the final step. At this moment, Zhou seemed to have sensed something. He opened his eyes and suddenly looked up into the distance, seeing an unsightly scene. A black man had snatched the blade from an Eastern woman and used his cultivation to seal her movements. He then embraced her and revealed a disgusting smile as he headed towards the ground. Zhou was not stupid. Of course he knew what was going on. His expression was very ugly. When he looked carefully, his expression changed drastically. Su Xiaoyu. He did not expect the other party to be Su Xiaoyu. Zhou's expression changed on the spot. Sun Shan had told him to take care of Su Xiaoyu. Zhou naturally could not ignore such a thing happening in front of him. Therefore, he ignored his body that was currently tempering and suddenly stood up. Kun. With this, he immediately spat out blood. He was currently tempering his final blood essence. Since he was currently guiding it, it naturally caused the blood essence in his body to boil. However, Zhou had to do this. What's wrong? What are you doing? Do you not want your life anymore? The frog was immediately stunned. Even the white jelly was the same. Is this brat stupid? Even the white jelly couldn't help but say. At this moment, Zhou stood up and sped away. At this moment, Su Xiaoyu was already in despair and closed her eyes in pain. When the black man saw this, he laughed. If you find it terrifying, close your eyes. Soon, you will realize the joy of being a woman. Su Xiaoyu could sense that this man was taking off her clothes and was already in despair. However, at this moment, she suddenly felt a strong wind breaking. She opened her eyes and saw a man who was vomiting blood bombarding towards them. This scene naturally made the black man notice. His expression was extremely ugly. He turned around and saw Zhou vomiting blood and sneered. What a damn good for nothing. He's already like this, yet he still wants to be a hero and save the beauty. As he spoke, he could not be bothered to waste his breath. He waved his hand and released a powerful cultivation. The powerful strength of an 8th grade supernatural expert was incomparably terrifying. It condensed into a black lion phantom and spread out fiercely. In his eyes, this brat would definitely die from this attack. However, he did not expect the man who was vomiting blood to directly smash the lion phantom into pieces without any hesitation. That powerful strength made his scalp tingle. Damn! He was frightened and immediately took a step back. Friend, I'm the eldest son of the Iten Li family in Africa. My name is Bai. If you have any requests, feel free to tell me. Don't hurt me. Bai was not stupid and knew what the other party planned on doing. However, it was already too late. Zhou Hao was in no mood to care about him. All he wanted to do now was to instantly kill him so that he could properly deal with the restless blood essence in his body. Therefore, Zhou Hao directly released his quasi-heaven realm cultivation. Under the lightning that filled the sky, a spear immediately pierced through Bai. Bai died without even knowing how he had been insta-killed. After settling him, Zhou Hao looked at Su Xiaoyu and hurriedly said, "Xiaofu, are you all right?" When Su Xiaoyu heard this, she was stunned for a moment. However, before she could answer, Zhou Hao spat out blood and fell into his arms. Hey you, what's wrong?" Su Xiaoyu was frightened. Although her cultivation was restricted, she could still move. She hurriedly helped Zhou Hao up. At this moment, the frog and the white jelly hurriedly rushed over. The moment it saw Su Xiaoyu, the frog immediately blinked its big eyes and even took off its sunglasses. Seeing that this girl's figure was perfect, it nodded vigorously. "Miss, don't be anxious. Zhou Hao is only like this because his blood essence is lacking. His life is not in danger," the frog hurriedly said before smiling. It looked extremely disgusting. Su Xiaoyu was currently worried about Zhou Hao and did not notice the strange expression on the frog's face. "This is Zhou Hao? Are you his spirit pets?" Su Xiaoyu was stunned for a moment. She naturally knew the name Zhou Hao very well. Just 2 days ago, she had even heard her sister mention this person. She did not expect to be saved by this person. That's right, the frog hurriedly said. At this moment, Zhou Hao was already unconscious. Su Xiaoyu was very worried. Is he really fine? Although his life is not in danger, he was at the critical moment of his breakthrough. Because he stopped abruptly to save you, his body was injured. In fact, he should have been quite heavily injured. Ah! When Su Xiaoyu heard this, her expression immediately changed. She hurriedly said, "Is there any way to save him?" When the frog heard this, it immediately blinked its large eyes and looked at the white jelly. Their eyes met and they could tell from each other's expressions that they were both thinking dirty thoughts. "There's a way, but I wonder if Miss is willing to help Zhou Hao," the frog said directly. "Of course I have to help. He saved me. How could I not help him?" Su Xiaoyu said directly. "All right, then this is all you need to do." As the frog spoke, it leaned towards Su Xiaoyu's ear and whispered. Originally, Su Xiaoyu thought that the frog had a good idea, but after hearing this, her pretty face immediately turned red. Her eyes widened and she became embarrassed. Cough cough, although this method is not very appropriate, there's nothing else we can do now. If Miss is unwilling, then so be it. Sigh, I just pity our Zhou Hao for being so severely injured because of you. As the frog spoke, it glanced at Su Xiaoyu. The latter's expression was volatile and conflicted. After a long time, she seemed to have made up her mind. She bit her lip and then gently opened Zhou Hao's mouth. She kissed him. Chapter 514 Misunderstanding? Su Xiaoyu kissed him directly. Her shy face and fragrant scent were really irresistible. The frog's eyes widened in excitement, as did the white jelly. Damn! This is the first time I've seen a male kiss a male. The frog was originally very excited, but when it heard the jelly say this, it was immediately furious. Its mood was immediately destroyed. Are you stupid? This is a woman, a woman. White-skinned, beautiful woman, are you stupid? The frog was speechless. Ah? A woman? How could it be a woman? How? That's not right. The white jelly immediately became conflicted, and an old face appeared on its body. Its eyes widened as it carefully looked at Su Xiaoyu in confusion. The moment Su Xiaoyu kissed Zhou Hao, a strange force was sucked out of Zhou Hao's mouth. It was a ball of fiery aura and also the huge energy that blocked Zhou Hao's heart. Zhou Hao had not completely absorbed it just now and was in a hurry to attack. Therefore, this aura directly blocked his heart. In fact, as long as someone guided it out, Zhou Hao's disobedient aura would return to normal. However, the frog had played a prank on Su Xiaoyu and told her to suck it out. This was also why things were unfolding in this way. The fire in his heart gradually dissipated. Only then did Zhou Hao recover. He opened his eyes and saw a peerless flushed face. Her eyes were closed tightly, revealing nervousness. She was so close. At this moment, Zhou Hao was stunned. Am I dreaming? I haven't seen any Japanese movies recently. What's going on? Why would I have such a dream? Zhou Hao really thought that he was dreaming. After all, the two of them were too close and he could not tell who this person was. Wasn't there a saying that said that one cannot see the forest for the trees? This was what it meant. Zhou Hao thought that it was a dream and became bolder. He felt the cold lips against his and immediately opened his mouth. He stretched out his glib tongue and attacked. This shocked Su Xiaoyu. She hurriedly opened her eyes and saw Zhou Hao looking at her with lust. She was furious and immediately pushed Zhou Hao away. Not only that, but she also raised her hand and slapped him. Slap! You pervert! A crisp sound and furious cursing sounded, immediately raising Zhou Hao's spirits. Damn! Not a dream! Zhou Hao could clearly feel his face burning. He immediately woke up and looked up. He saw Su Xiaofu's furious face looking at him. His heart skipped a beat. Damn, I remember now. I was trying to break through and before I could succeed, I went to save her. That's why I fainted. But I fainted. Why would she kiss me? Could she be performing CPR? In an instant, several thoughts flashed through Zhou Hao's mind, but he still hurriedly explained, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I thought it was a dream. Xiaofu, I'm really sorry. I apologize. Su Xiaoyu looked at Zhou Hao and snorted. Open your eyes and look. I'm not Su Xiaofu. Su Xiaoyu was very angry that her first kiss had been stolen. Her tone was also very stiff. You're not Su Xiaofu? Zhou Hao was stunned for a moment. He looked carefully and immediately realized that something was different. Su Xiaofu gave off a very gentle feeling. That gentleness seemed to be able to seep into one's bones. Moreover, there was a strange charm to Su Xiaofu. She looked very strange, but the contrast made it impossible for one to look away. However, the woman in front of him was less gentle, more nervous and shy, and even a little fierce. This expression did not seem like Su Xiaofu. Beauty, you are. Zhou Hao immediately felt even more embarrassed. Su Xiaofu is my second sister. I'm Su Xiaoyu. Su Xiaoyu glared at him and could not help but say. So it's Miss Su. I've long heard of your great name. Zhou Hao knew that they were four sisters in the Su family and also wondered if it was one of them earlier. Thank you for your help just now. Zhou Hao scratched his head and was a little nervous. Although he was not the one who took the initiative, he still took advantage of the other party. You saved me. It's only natural for me to save you. You don't have to thank me. It's just that. Su Xiaoyu wanted to ask the other party why he had stuck his tongue out like a pervert. However, she was unable to say this. Zhou Hao was stunned for a moment. He thought that she wanted to say something, but she did not say anything in the end. At this moment, Zhou Hao's blood essence was already smooth and his physique had also changed. However, a small portion of the body tempering fluid had been absorbed by Su Xiaoyu. However, even so, Zhou Hao could still sense that although his physique was far inferior to the first-level life form, he should at least be a fourth-level life form by now. Now, he should also be qualified to cultivate a cosmic body. At this moment, the frog and the divine soil jumped over. Before the frog could speak, the divine soil immediately said, "This guy asked her to kiss you. Clearly, your blood essence only needed to be smoothed out. There's no need for you two to kiss at all. It was this frog who lied to her because he wanted to see the two of you kiss." The divine soil had finally found an opportunity to take revenge. This sentence immediately made the awkward situation turn intense. "What? You guys did this?" Zhou Hao was furious. It turned out that it was all because of this frog. Su Xiaoyu was simply about to explode in anger. At that time, she also had her suspicions, but saving him was more important. She did not think too much about it, but who knew that the frog was actually lying to her? You damned spirit pet, I'm going to kill you." Su Xiaoyu completely exploded. With a wave of her hand, a green sword appeared in her hand and slashed at the frog. That sword was extremely fast. One could only see a green light. The frog was so frightened that it cried out like a baby. "Miss, this is a misunderstanding. I only asked you to suck the fiery ball out of his mouth. I never told you to kiss him. I think you just want to kiss him. Now that you're exposed, you're pushing the blame to me. I won't take the blame." Although the frog spoke, its hands were not idle. A strange shadow appeared behind it, shaking the void and blocking Su Xiaoyu's fast attack. Su Xiaoyu's expression was extremely ugly. Thinking about it, it was indeed true. This guy really did not ask her to kiss him. But why did she misunderstand? She was very shy and did not dare to look at Zhou Hao at this moment. She had just blamed him and slapped him. However, now, the frog's words had made it seem like she was the one who wanted to kiss him. She was also embarrassed to stay any longer. Her body flashed, and she did not say a word before speeding away and leaving this place. Chapter 515 Secret Meeting. Seeing that Su Xiaoyu had left, Zhou Hao sighed secretly. What should he do? If word got out, what would happen to his image? However, Su Xiaoyu would not say anything. After she left, Zhou Hao looked at the frog and the divine soil and snorted. "You did it on purpose, right?" The frog pushed its sunglasses up and said disdainfully, "Tch, so what if I did it on purpose but you're really shameless? How dare you stick your tongue out? You!" Zhou Hao was furious, but he could not say anything and could only give up. The Moro race's mystic realm had also opened for a few days. Zhou Hao knew that it would still take some time before the Moro race's mental world opened, so he was not in a hurry. Zhou Hao wandered around in search of luck. However, on this day, as he was speeding along, he suddenly sensed an exquisite killing intent. Zhou Hao's expression immediately changed. He hurriedly dodged and directly avoided this one-hit kill. Then, he held his spear and waved it. The powerful force directly pierced through the void, leaving a trace of blood there. "Humph! Stop hiding around. Come out. You've already been exposed." Zhou Hao looked at a certain spot in the void and his powerful mental strength immediately discovered that something was wrong, so he snorted. Indeed, after Zhou Hao finished speaking, the void trembled and slowly squirmed. A figure walked out with a solemn expression. Zhou Hao looked at this person. This person was wearing a rather simple set of clothes that looked a little like traditional Chinese attire. This surprised him. "ACC. Friend, I didn't mean to offend you just now. Please let it go on account of my ancient martial family, the Tang family. How about that?" The man in traditional Chinese attire looked at Zhou Hao and cupped his hands. It was not that the other party was polite. It was just that he had realized that he was not a match for Zhou Hao and quickly admitted defeat. Zhou Hao snorted and said indifferently, "The ancient martial family, the Tang family? Sorry, I've never heard of it. Since you tried to kill me, then be prepared to die." Zhou Hao was not a pushover. The other party had attacked with the intention to kill him and then brought up the Tang family. Was he joking? "Friend, offending our Tang family is not a wise choice," Tang Yin said directly with a cold expression. Although he could not defeat this person, he was not afraid. He was of the Tang family bloodline and naturally had pride. The Tang family? I've really never heard of it. If you say it's not wise to offend, then so be it. However, no one will be able to save you now. Zhou Hao snorted and could not be bothered to waste his breath. He directly exploded with his quasi-heaven realm cultivation. At the same time, the 1,000-feathered armor was also directly attached to him. Zhou Hao was like a silver-armored warrior as he pounced over. The person in front of him was a 9th-grade supernatural expert with powerful strength, but he was not Zhou Hao's match at all. The reason why Zhou Hao was wearing the 1,000-feathered armor was because he was worried that someone would see him. Tang Yin's expression immediately changed drastically. He took out his twin axes and resisted Zhou Hao. However, he was not Zhou Hao's match at all. Moreover, Zhou Hao wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. Therefore, there was no suspense in this battle. After penetrating him with a spear and erasing the traces, Zhou Hao took his spatial bag and burned him before quickly leaving the scene. Humph, who cares if you are from the Tang family or not? In any case, no one will know who I am. If you want to kill me, you have to be prepared to be killed. Zhou Hao had never been a soft-hearted person. The other party was already about to kill him, so how could he still smile and forget the enmity? Zhou Hao was not that benevolent. After leaving, Zhou Hao opened the other party's spatial bag and saw a huge pile of things. Zhou Hao could not use some of the electronic components at all and casually threw them aside. However, there were still some precious treasures that seemed to be worth some money. After taking these things away, Zhou Hao was stunned for a moment and saw a token. It was very strange and had the word 6 written on it. Zhou Hao flipped the token over and looked at it before blinking. The 6 great bloodlines, the land of inheritance, recreate the ancient glory of the 6 families, special meeting. Zhou Hao nodded. It seemed that this was a secret meeting. However, Zhou Hao did not know what this secret meeting was. Just as he was about to throw it away, the frog suddenly jumped over, its eyes shining. Someone from the ancient martial Tang family? Isn't that one of the 6 ancient bloodlines? The frog was knowledgeable and immediately recognized this token. What? Do you know something about this? Zhou Hao asked. Of course, these few were experts who followed Huang back then. There were a total of 6 people who left behind 6 lineages. However, later on, the talents of these 6 lineages withered and fell apart long ago. I'm afraid the 6 lineages barely have any people left now. The frog said indifferently. 6 lineages? Which 6? Zhou Hao could not help but ask. I forgot a long time ago. In this world, they're probably the only ones who know that they're from the 6 lineages. Other people probably don't know at all, the frog said indifferently. Oh, in other words, it's useless. Zhou Hao was not interested and wanted to throw it out for the second time. However, the frog hurriedly said, Wait, what's the hurry? What's wrong? Zhou Hao asked. These 6 experts are really heaven-defying. After all, they were all followers of Huang. Although their 6 lineages are basically dead, there's probably something going on. In any case, we're free now. Why don't you pretend to be a member of the 6 lineages and go take a look? The frog suddenly said. Should I go and take a look? My surname isn't Tang. What if they find out? Zhou Hao said worriedly. Don't worry, they won't know who you are. Moreover, no one can prove that the Tang family is one of the 6 lineages anymore. If I say your Zhou family is, no one will refute. Because they suffered a huge change back then and didn't leave anything behind. It's not even certain if they can gather all 6 lineages. Zhou Hao was a little tempted by the frog's words. If that was the case, he could give it a try. Alright, let's go take a look. At this moment, Zhou Hao wore a black cloak that covered his face and walked towards the direction mentioned in the token at a very fast speed. Not long after, he saw a small hill. On this hill, 5 people were sitting there. They were all wearing black robes as if they were waiting for someone. Zhou Hao's arrival made the 5 of them unable to help but look up. However, they did not say anything. After Zhou Hao landed, one of them said, "Our 6 lineages have finally gathered. Since we've gathered, let me tell everyone why I'm in such a hurry to gather everyone." The person who spoke was a woman. Her voice was pleasant and revealed an ethereal feeling. Be it Zhou Hao or the others, they all looked at her curiously and waited for her to continue. However, her next words stunned everyone except Zhou Hao, including the frog. "This time, I gathered everyone for a supreme treasure, the universe origin wood." Chapter 516 Meeting. These ordinary words made everyone's breathing tighten. They could clearly tell that it was not a simple treasure. Zhou Hao was stunned for a moment and was very puzzled, but the frog's voice quickly sounded in Zhou Hao's mind. The universe origin wood. Heavens, I didn't expect this treasure to still be alive. The frog's words puzzled Zhou Hao even more. What did the frog mean by this? Zhou Hao was very surprised. How could a treasure be alive? Could it be a living being? After countless tests conducted by those from my bloodline, I can finally confirm that the treasure is in the Moro race territory. Everyone, we're all descendants of the 6 ancient lineages. The opportunity to revive my 6 lineages has arrived today. Therefore, I specially gathered all of you here for this matter. After the woman finished speaking, she looked at everyone through the black veil. Zhou Hao did not say anything. He was pretending to be one of them, so he did not speak. The 6 lineages have disappeared for a long time and we have already adapted to our current lives. We also can't take back the former glory of the 6 lineages. I don't agree with you taking the risk for the sake of that glory. The person who spoke was an old man with an aged voice that carried a tone of refusal. Since this senior doesn't want to go, I won't force him. How about this? Let's vote and decide. How about that? The woman still wanted to persist. After saying this, she directly raised her hand. Those who agree, raise your hand. As soon as the woman finished speaking, the others raised their hands. Zhou Hao hesitated for a moment and also raised his hand. Zhou Hao could not see the old man's face clearly, but he could still sense that his expression under the veil must be very ugly. Senior, this is the group's decision. If you still consider yourself a member of the 6 lineages, help us. If you don't want to go, then forget it. After all, the matter of the 6 lineages is already in the past. Everyone has already shown enough respect by coming here. After the woman finished speaking, she stopped talking. The old man clearly hesitated. After a long time, he sighed. In that case, let's go. After the old man finished speaking, he sighed. After the woman heard this, she was very happy. With a wave of her hand, 5 sets of information appeared and landed in the hands of the 5 of them. We'll meet again at this time tomorrow. There's a map included in the information. After the woman finished speaking, her body moved and she left first. The others also left. Zhou Hao blinked. Wasn't this secret meeting too casual? After sneaking in like this, he even learned about the so-called universe origin wood? What is this universe origin wood? Zhou Hao asked curiously. Hehe, it's very impressive. This universe origin wood is a divine item that existed since the beginning of the universe. This item has the same lifespan as the world and there's only a few stalks. Back then, Huang spent a lot of effort to bring this back from the edge of the universe and plant it on planet Earth. If not for the fact that Huang planted this on planet Earth back then, a planet of that level wouldn't have so much essence energy. It can be said that most of this essence energy was nourished by it. However, after the final battle, the universe origin wood disappeared without a trace. The 6 lineages in charge of the universe origin wood were also destroyed. I didn't expect it to be in the territory of the Moro race. How interesting! The frog's words shocked Zhou. From what it said, this thing seemed to be quite impressive. If I obtain this, what can I do with it? Zhou asked directly. Can. And. Sense. This thing is very useful. If you can absorb it and turn it into a part of your body, you can instantly become a third-level life form. Moreover, it will constantly provide you with essence energy. The essence energy it provides is much more than the essence energy you are able to obtain from cultivating. However, it also has a certain limit. After breaking through to the cosmic level, I'm afraid that the use of this thing will be insignificant. However, given your current level, this thing will definitely be able to make you stronger. Hearing this, Zhou understood. This was a freaking essence energy warehouse. If he could obtain this, wouldn't it be perfect? I can't believe it. I have to get this. Zhou smiled and made up his mind. Soon, Zhou arrived at the destination the next day. At the same time, 50 kilometers away, 3 people stood on a mountain peak. One of them, a man, was wearing a capable martial artist uniform. He sat there silently, but one could sense a 9th-grade supernatural cultivation trembling. He had no expression and closed his eyes tightly. Not far from him stood a woman. She was not young, but she looked like she was a beauty back in the days. However, her eyes were filled with displeasure as she looked at another woman in the distance in jeans and a tight shirt with envy. That woman was very beautiful and had an extremely good figure. She definitely had a 9-headed figure. Although she was wearing a veil, it was still obvious that she was a beauty. The man also opened his eyes from time to time and swept his gaze over the woman, frowning slightly. It's almost time. They haven't arrived yet. Could it be that they don't want to come? The man in the warrior uniform said. Sister Wang, Brother Wu, please calm down. There's still a little time before the agreed time. Let's wait patiently. As the woman spoke, she smiled. Her voice was pleasant to the ear and her attitude was gentle. Be it the man in the warrior uniform or the middle-aged woman, they did not complain after this. At this moment, a strong wind blew over. A man in a suit and leather shoes flew over from the sky. He was very handsome and elegant. As soon as he arrived, he smiled. Sister Wang, Brother Wu, sorry for the wait. Sister Su, I'm sorry for the delay. After the suited man finished speaking, Wang and Wu were stunned for a moment. They could not help but look at the woman. The veiled woman sighed and shook her head. She could only take off this veil. After taking off her veil, her beauty was instantly revealed. It was as if she had walked out of a painting. She was 70% charming and 30% shy. Any man who saw her would not be able to help himself. If Zhou were here, he would definitely be shocked because this woman was actually 70% similar to Su Xiaoyu and Su Xiaoyu. Humph, so it's Miss Su from the international auction. I've long heard that your 4 sisters are beautiful. Indeed, they're much more beautiful than in the photos. Why hide your face when you're so beautiful? We're all showing our true appearances and yet you were still hiding your face. How infuriating! The middle-aged woman surnamed Wang immediately snorted. She was naturally displeased because she was jealous and worried. After all, the other party was one of the top auctioneers of the international auction house. Chapter 517 Testing Zhou's Strength. Everyone knew how powerful the international auction house was, as well as the status of the daughter of the Su family of the auction house. Therefore, when they saw that it was the daughter of the Su family who had arrived, they were naturally somewhat nervous. The identities of those from the 6 lineages had long been lost. At the moment, they only knew that they themselves were part of the lineages. However, there was no way for them to verify. Now that the daughter of the Su family had arrived, they were naturally worried that it would be a trap set by the international auction. Moreover, not only was there the daughter of the Su family, but there was also this man in a suit. This man's identity was not inferior to the daughter of the Su family. To a certain extent, he was far superior to the daughter of the Su family. This was because he was the eldest son of one of the wealthy families that owned the auction house. Shui Yuangi. Seeing the two of them appear together, the expressions of middle-aged man Wang and Wu turned ugly. This did not rule out the possibility that their international auction had taken a fancy to this treasure and was leading them into a trap. It's not that I want to hide it from you, but it's really not good to show my identity to others. I just want to avoid any misunderstandings. However, since we're already prepared to die together, it's also not good for me to hide it. The woman smiled and said this, but it still did not reassure them. At this moment, a long arc appeared before finally transforming into an old man in a traditional Chinese suit. This person had a luxurious aura. He looked at the daughter of the Su family and Shui Yuangi, and his expression immediately turned ugly. I was wondering why they were in such a hurry to gather us. It turns out that the auction has some ideas about the universe origin wood. The old man in the traditional Chinese suit snorted coldly and was very angry. However, the daughter of the Su family smiled. Old Tai, you must be joking. This time, I'm not representing the auction house. Brother Shui is also not representing the auction house, but our 6 lineages. Although the matter of the auction house is important to us, the inheritance of the 6 lineages is equally important to us. After saying this, their expressions improved slightly. Moreover, if they could really obtain the universe origin wood, their trip would not have been in vain. Since it's almost time, let's go in. At this moment, Shui Yuangi smiled and said directly. No hurry. There's still one more person, the youngest daughter of the Su family said with a smile. When they said the last person, their expressions changed. After so many years, this 6th bloodline has never appeared, but this time, he actually appeared in the Moro race territory. I keep feeling that something's wrong. The person who spoke was Elder Qin, who was dressed in traditional Chinese attire. He frowned. In all these years, the 6 lineages had gathered a few times, but there had never been a 6th person. It had always been the 5 of them. However, this token had been sent out for a long time. They were still somewhat surprised to see the 6th person this time. Even the youngest daughter of the Su family was the same. She was somewhat puzzled and did not understand how this last person appeared. On the other hand, the youngest daughter of the Su family could not help but say, although I don't understand why he hasn't appeared for so many years, since he has appeared, he should still be confident in his ability. It's fine for us to wait. Perhaps our success will depend on him. After saying this, the middle-aged woman surnamed Wang was immediately displeased. Sister Su, aren't you being too ridiculous? We all have 9th grade supernatural cultivation and even have a chance to step into the quasi-heaven realm. Could it be that the last person is a quasi-heaven realm expert? The others naturally also wanted to ask the same question. How powerful could this last person be? However, at this moment, Zhou arrived in a black robe and was stunned as he looked at the 5 people below. As they revealed their true appearances, Zhou was very surprised. He did not know why they had revealed their true appearances all of a sudden. However, he still took off the black robe and revealed his face. Everyone, I'm really sorry for the delay. Zhou smiled and swept his gaze across their faces. When he saw the daughter of the Su family, he was stunned for a moment. Su Xiaoyu or Su Xiaoyu? Zhou was stunned for a moment and was very surprised. However, he saw that the woman was looking at him indifferently. Moreover, upon careful inspection, he found that this woman's aura was different from the other two. Although she was only incomparably charming, this woman had an additional shy feminine posture. Presumably, it was not Su Xiaoyu and Su Xiaoyu, but the younger sister of the four sisters. Su Xiaoyu. After saying this, he looked at the others. 6th grade supernatural expert? Hehe, is such trash even worthy of going to the forbidden area to obtain the universe origin wood? Wang immediately said with a cold expression. His strength is indeed too weak, Wu said indifferently. The cultivation of a 6th grade supernatural expert was really too low. Among them, the weakest was at least at the 8th grade supernatural level. With such trash by their side, Zhou Hao would only be a burden. Looks like it doesn't matter if this 6th person is present or not. A mere 6th grade supernatural expert, he isn't even worthy of being our cannon fodder. Wang stepped forward and looked at Zhou Hao. If you want to join, fine. Block me with your full strength. If you succeed, you will be qualified. If you fail, your life will be up to fate. As she spoke, the woman surnamed Wang immediately waved her hand. Her 9th grade supernatural cultivation exploded with a bang, and her aura was very powerful. She pointed at Zhou Hao and pulled out a sharp aura that surged towards him. Zhou Hao frowned and swept his gaze over them. Wu closed his eyes as if he was disinterested. The old man in the traditional attire looked at all of this indifferently as if it had nothing to do with him. Shui Yuangi looked at Zhou Hao with disdain. Only Su Xiaoyu looked at Zhou Hao curiously, not understanding why he dared to work with them with such a cultivation. Looks like in this world where the strong prey on the weak, it's really impossible to survive without ability. Zhou Hao understood this and smiled. He did not dodge at all and directly punched out. His was already a 3rd-level life form, far surpassing all of them. Although he did not use the strength of his cultivation, it was still not a problem for him to parry this Wang woman's move. You're young, but you're quite arrogant. Wang immediately snorted with disdain. Hehe. Zhou Hao smiled faintly and his powerful physical strength directly exploded. With a punch, he directly shattered that aura. Not only that, but an even more magnificent force directly erupted from his body. This strength pressed forward. Wang did not care at first, but as this strength pierced through her aura and got closer to her, the woman's expression finally turned ugly. The others also widened their eyes and looked at Zhou Hao in disbelief. Chapter 518 Entering the City. Boom! A huge explosion directly sounded, and the woman was instantly sent flying by this powerful force. Her body flew back for 100 meters. On the other hand, Zhou Hao did not move at all and had yet to retract his fist. He looked really carefree. If you want to test me, I want to test you too. I want to see if you are qualified to be on the same level as me, Zhou Hao. After Zhou Hao finished speaking, his body moved. He still did not use his cultivation. Instead, he relied on his explosive physical strength to speed away. After becoming a 3rd-level life form, Zhou Hao's body was comparable to a peak heaven realm expert. With this physique, he was basically invincible against those below the heaven realm. Seeing this, the woman surnamed Wang's expression was extremely ugly. She was very afraid. This person's combat strength had already made her panic. Zhou Hao did not hesitate at all. He punched out, and a powerful aura exploded. It was extremely powerful. The strength of this punch was enough to split the sky. Without saying a word, the woman surnamed Wang circulated her cultivation to resist. However, Zhou Hao's punch was not something she could casually resist. Immediately, the power surged down. Wang immediately spat out blood and was sent flying. On the other hand, Zhou Hao did not move at all and had a calm expression. This scene dumbfounded everyone. Was this combat strength still at the 6th grade supernatural level? How was he stronger than an 8th grade supernatural expert? They even felt that they themselves would not be able to compete with Zhou Hao. Su Xiaoyu covered her mouth in surprise. She did not dare to believe it. This person was too powerful. Even she would not be able to defeat that woman so easily. Zhou Hao looked at Wang and said indifferently, I only used 60% of my strength for that punch. Zhou Hao was not bluffing. He did not use the god-slaying art or the 9 revolutions overlord body art, so he was naturally not at his peak combat strength. If he used it, Zhou Hao could instantly kill this woman. After everyone heard this, their eyes widened. They had finally seen how powerful Zhou Hao was. Zhou Hao could also sense that this physical body was indeed powerful. No matter what kind of special technique it was, it would be destroyed by him with a single punch. Just now I apologize for offending you just now. Please don't take it to heart, friend. This item consider it my compensation. Wang was extremely afraid. Without saying a word, she took out a treasure from her backpack and handed it to Zhou Hao. She was quite tactful by doing this. Zhou Hao did not hesitate and directly stuffed it into his backpack. Then, he looked at the others. Am I qualified now? After Zhou Hao finished speaking, their expressions changed. This person looks to be only a 6th grade supernatural expert, but his combat strength is so high that even a 9th grade supernatural expert is no match for him. He vaguely has quasi-heaven realm combat strength. Could it be that this person is hiding his cultivation? Elder Qin frowned and thought to himself. That palm did not emit any essence energy. It was pure physical strength. Could it be that his body has been modified? Otherwise, how could he be so powerful? Shui Yuangi also guessed secretly. Of course. At this moment, Su Xiaoyu smiled and said, I'm Su Xiaoyu, the youngest daughter of the Su family from the International Auction House. This is the eldest son of the Shui family from the International Auction House. Also, this is big sister Wang. Brother Wu, this is Elder Qin. The 5 of us are all descendants of the 6 lineages. I wonder if you can tell us what your name is. Zhou Hao looked at Su Xiaoyu and was secretly delighted. Fortunately, he did not say anything rash. This woman was indeed not Su Xiaoyu and Su Xiaoyu. My name is Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao said directly, but after he finished speaking, the 5 of them were stunned for a moment. Although they were not sure if the last 6 meridians person's surname was Tang, they had never received news that Zhou was among the 6 meridians. However, none of them said anything. Brother Zhou, since you're already here, we don't have much time. Let's go, Su Xiaoyu said hurriedly. However, at this moment, Elder Qin said, Miss Su, this universe origin wood has long disappeared. How did you know it was here? Also, how do we split it after we succeed? After saying this, Wu nodded. I also want to know. Su Xiaoyu smiled and explained, this universe origin wood is very important. Just because you don't know, it doesn't mean that others don't know. Moreover, we have yet to obtain the universe origin wood. What's the point of discussing it? It won't be too late to discuss it after we obtain it, right? Time is very precious now, so we should make the best use of it. Su Xiaoyu was really good with words. She had said so much, but she had not actually decided on anything. She was really a smart woman. However, they could also tell that these words were useless. However, they were not worried. Their cultivation levels were similar, so they were not worried that anything could happen. Seeing that the few of them stopped talking, Su Xiaoyu smiled and led the way. Not long after, they saw an altar. This altar was somewhat huge and very rare. This altar would lead them to the foundation of the 6 lineages. Outside this city, there were 6 altars filled with 6 symbols. Needless to say, it also represented the 6 lineages. Zhou Hao frowned and did not move rashly. This was because he could not recognize the Tang family symbol, but the others could. Therefore, when the 5 of them arrived at their respective altars, Zhou Hao directly went to the last one. The few of them arrived at the altar and quickly flashed with a strange suction force. It was emitted from the altar with the power of a dimension. As for Zhou, he stood on it and nothing happened. Big brother Zhou, if you don't activate the spirit design, you won't be able to enter this place. After all, these 6 altars were designed to let descendants from the 6 lineages enter. If you can't activate this altar, you won't be able to enter the city. Zhou understood. This was just another form of identity verification. One had to be verified before they could pass through this altar. If they were not from the lineage, they would also not be able to pass. However, Zhou was not from the 6 lineages. How was he supposed to get verified? Zhou was very depressed. Just as he did not know what to do, Su Xiaoyu smiled and could not help but say, "What? Is brother Zhou actually unable to open this altar? Is it indifference or inability?" Hearing this, Zhou was furious. However, at this moment, a strange power directly appeared on Zhou's body and connected to the altar. In an instant, the altar instantly lit up and emitted a faint dimensional power. TCH, faking lineages is no big deal. Easy peasy. At this moment, the divine soil said smugly, making Zhou nervous and excited. After waiting for so long, he even broke out in cold sweat. Chapter 519 Questioning from both sides. After Zhou heard this, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at Su Xiaoyu indifferently and smiled. "It's been a long time since I last used my lineage technique. I forgot. Sorry." The few of them looked at Zhou with deep gazes. However, since the altar could be activated, it meant that Zhou was qualified to enter. Therefore, they naturally did not say anything. "Since the altar has been opened, let's go in." With that said, Su Xiaoyu disappeared from the altar. The others did the same. Zhou also entered the space. As soon as they entered, the scene in front of them changed drastically. They had arrived in a huge space. This space was very luxurious, but it was not lively. It was like a land of death with a rotting smell. There were 6 divine statues in front of him. These divine statues were extremely huge, and Zhou could not help but be shocked when he saw them. "This is the foundation of our 6 lineages, the ancient divine statue. This divine statue has extremely powerful strength. If it's activated, it can destroy the world. Back then, it was also because of these 6 divine statues that our 6 lineages could remain standing. If we can control the divine statue now, we will still be invincible in the world. However, the method to control this statue has long been lost. I'm afraid we can't use it anymore." Su Xiaoyu sighed and could not help but say. The others also sighed. Some were unwilling, and some were indifferent. Su Xiaoyu was naturally unwilling to give up. His eyes were filled with ambition, as if he wished he could immediately use this strength. As for Elder Qin, he sighed. He naturally did not care about this. The only thing he was worried about was his descendants. He did not care about the 6 lineages. He had only come out this time because he was worried about his family. If they really obtained the universe origin wood, it would also be a huge benefit to their family. After Zhou heard this, he nodded. If this thing could really be activated, it would indeed be extraordinary. At this moment, Su Xiaoyu looked at Zhou and said indifferently, "Brother Zhou, I have something I'm very curious about. These 6 lineages were established a long time ago and there was never a surname Zhou. How did you obtain the recognition of that altar?" After saying this, everyone narrowed their eyes. Clearly, they wanted to know where Zhou came from. Moreover, was he really a descendant of the 6 lineages? They had searched for the 6th person for a long time and had basically confirmed that the other party was from the Tang family. However, they really could not understand why it had suddenly become Zhou. Of course, they also had their guesses. If this Zhou was really a 6th lineage descendant, then this name might not even be his real name. After Zhou heard this, he smiled. He naturally knew that he was not from the 6 lineages. However, since he had obtained the recognition of the altar and arrived here, it was enough to explain everything. Moreover, Zhou also looked at them and understood something. Although everyone was here for the universe origin wood, everyone had their own thoughts. However, they had an inexplicable tacit understanding regarding Zhou. Hehe, it's useless no matter what I say. I want to ask everyone, do I need to be a descendant of one of the 6 lineages in order to pass through that altar? When Zhou asked this, the few of them frowned. Su Xiaoyu covered her mouth and smiled. Of course. That altar is forged by an ancient secret technique. No one can break it. Other than those from the 6 lineages or experts or Saint Realm experts, no one else can break through. Su Xiaoyu explained. In that case, why bother asking me that question? Zhou smiled. His words made everyone speechless. The meaning behind his words was to tell them that it was unnecessary for them to ask if he was actually from the so-called 6 lineages. What was important was that he had proven his identity by passing the altar. The others all spoke, but Su Xiaoyu smiled. All right, since there's nothing wrong, let's go in. Su Xiaoyu got up first and walked in. The few of them had already obtained the qualifications. They arrived in this space smoothly and quickly arrived at the center. This place was originally just a city. They could see countless ruined buildings and countless gravel. And what destroyed these countless buildings into rubble was a huge palm print. This palm print pressed the ground into a 10-meter deep pit. The huge palm print was as big as this city. Seeing this, Zhou drew a cold breath. Just how great was the other party's cultivation? He had destroyed a city with a single palm. One palm destroyed the ancient city of the 6 lineages. This is 2. They were all shocked and did not dare to believe it. At this moment, in the center of this huge palm, there was a tower that was still intact. It was not destroyed by this huge palm. Zhou saw it, and the others naturally saw it too. This is the 6 lineages' ancient tower. The few of them muttered and were somewhat shocked. Zhou did not know anything about this, but he could tell that this thing was very precious to the 6 lineages. My 6 lineages were destroyed with a single palm, but this tower is actually still intact. Even Elder Qin said excitedly. At this moment, Su Xiaoyu hurriedly took out something and compared it with the tower. It's in this tower the universe origin wood is inside. She spoke excitedly and the few of them instantly arrived outside the tower. They were too far away and could not see clearly. However, after getting closer, they were surprised to discover that this tower was indeed extraordinary. It had a rich aura of the Great Dao. However, the tower was not undamaged. Instead, a 10-meter wide hole was forcefully blasted open on the door. The tower has also been destroyed. Look at the door. Perhaps someone has already taken everything inside. Wang was the first to speak. No one knows for sure what happened back then. It's useless to say anything now. Let's hurry and see if the universe origin wood is inside. After the few of them approached, a primitive aura suddenly emitted from the tower. This strength was very powerful, like an invisible barrier, immediately blocking the few of them outside. This is the tower's self-protection willpower. Its willpower is so powerful. What should we do? Could we break through? Shui Yuangi hurriedly said. Zhou frowned. He looked at the tower and suddenly saw a Genesis rune on the entrance. This made his expression change drastically. No, look. There's a red symbol on the destroyed door. This pushing force is being emitted by the tower's self-protection willpower. It's being emitted by the symbol. Wu suddenly spoke, making them look over and gasp. Chapter 520 Reenacting the Ancient Times. The few of them were shocked and did not dare to believe it. What kind of symbol is this? Just a symbol alone is able to stop us. This is too unbelievable. Shui Yuangi was very shocked. On the other hand, Zhou narrowed his eyes after taking a look and did not want to say anything. At this moment, he felt a coldness in his heart, as if he knew who had destroyed the 6 lineages. Zhou recalled that when he had used the power of the Genesis rune to resolve the crisis in the 7th spatial rift, a huge hand had wanted to capture him. That hand probably belonged to the same person who had destroyed the 6 lineages. They did not seem to know about the power of the Genesis rune, and Zhou was more than happy to see it. Why did he leave behind a rune? Could it be that he didn't want others to take it and left it for us? That's not right either. If it's left for us, there's even less of a need to set up this rune. What's going on? Su Xiaoyu asked in confusion. If we can't get rid of the rune here, we won't be able to enter no matter what. Guys, any solutions? Shui Yuangi frowned. This place is 1,000 meters from the entrance. I have a way to stop the resistance for a moment and allow us to move forward by 200 meters. At this moment, Wu said. 200 meters out of 1,000 meters was considered acceptable. I have a way. I can walk 200 meters. Old Man Qin also said. In that case, it looks like everyone is able to help. I, too, have a treasure that can allow me to travel 300 meters. Shui Yuangi said. This 200 meters, plus another 200 meters, plus 300 meters, was a total of 700 meters. In other words, there were still 300 meters left. My treasure can also help us travel 200 meters. Wang also said. In other words, there were only 100 meters left. I can resolve the final 100 meters. Not only that, but I can also last for a minute. However, this rune. After Su Xiaoyu finished speaking, the few of them looked at Zhou. Zhou naturally had a way to resolve this matter. However, seeing that everyone was looking at him, Zhou did not want to volunteer. What? Do you guys want me to resolve this rune? 200 meters or 300 meters is nothing. After all, if you can't resolve this rune, it's useless even if you walk in. Everyone, aren't you bullying this newbie by asking me to resolve this difficult problem? Of course, Zhou only said all this because he wanted some benefits. Naturally, they could also tell. They were also unable to resolve this rune. They did not know how it worked and did not dare to act rashly. Brother Zhou, you speak as if you have the ability to resolve it. If you can resolve it, I'm willing to give this to you. At this moment, Shui Yuangi took out a treasure. It was a compass with a strange aura. It was very extraordinary. It's not fair for any one of us to deal with that rune without any compensation. In that case, I'm willing to give anyone who resolves it my protective jade pendant as a gift. At this moment, Su Xiaoyu pulled out the jade pendant she was wearing on her neck. It emitted waves of fluctuations, clearly a defensive treasure. However, after this item was taken out, Shui Yuangi frowned and his expression was ugly, but it quickly disappeared. I'm willing to take out a dragon crystal. The so-called dragon crystal was the dragon blood crystal. Of course, it was still unknown if it had anything to do with dragons. However, this thing was called the dragon blood crystal because the blood essence contained within could be used to temper the body. Wang also spoke out, I'm willing to give up a cultivation technique called the cloud chain palm. Although this cultivation technique is not very strong, it's not bad either. After taking out the corresponding treasures, they looked at Zhou. The people present were not stupid. They naturally understood that Zhou wanted benefits, so they were not stingy. All right, leave this rune to me. But I don't know if it will work. Zhou smiled. Although he was not too confident, he still felt that it was worth a try. After all, only Zhou had obtained a Genesis rune technique. All right. In that case, let's begin. As Su Xiaoyu spoke, Shui Yuangi took a step forward and took out a bell. After he took it out, it emitted powerful fluctuations. When this fluctuation appeared, it directly shook the resistance. Follow me. With that said, Shui Yuangi took a step forward. The few of them followed behind and instantly moved forward by 300 meters. At this moment, his treasure dimmed. Seeing this, Wu also shouted. Powerful protective aura swam around his body, and it was extremely domineering. His hands opened and closed, and he instantly tore open an opening and continued to charge in. They passed another 200 meters in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Elder Qin took out a bead that emitted waves of red light. This red light enveloped them and tore through the resistance, instantly allowing them to travel another 200 meters. Then, Wang took out her Dharma treasure and they walked another 200 meters. With only 100 meters left, Su Xiaoyu suddenly waved her hand. A pink gas spread out from her body, bringing with it a soul-stirring fragrance. She also dispersed this resistance and instantly arrived in front of the door. Brother Zhou, I can only last for 1 minute. Quick! Su Xiaoyu's hands were imprinted with sweat. Clearly, she was struggling. Zhou Hao was not about to joke around as well. He hurriedly walked over and felt the power of the Genesis rune, feeling shocked in his heart. Kid, this Genesis rune is not simple. However, with your attainments, you should be able to resolve it. However, it's better if you don't destroy this Genesis rune instead, you should absorb it. At this moment, Murong Sun's voice resounded in Zhou Hao's mind. Why? Zhou Hao was puzzled. This imprint is not simple. It's a sealing technique that is very ancient. If you can absorb this thing, you can even use it to imprison a few Heaven Realm experts. Murong Sun was a Genesis rune master, so Zhou Hao naturally believed his words. Therefore, without saying a word, he tried to use the power of the Genesis rune. A strange fluctuation emitted from Zhou Hao's body. After connecting to the Genesis rune, he immediately felt a soaring murderous aura. Zhou Hao's vision changed as he suddenly saw 6 people standing in the sky. However, these 6 people were covered in blood and were incomparably tragic. Above their heads stood a figure shrouded in darkness. Endless Genesis rune symbols floated behind this figure. Humph, you're nothing more than a disobedient and unfilial person, an embarrassment. Our master, Huang, lost his life for the sake of the world. And yet, you just want to obtain this heaven-defying fortune for yourself. How detestable! Even if the 6 of us die in battle, we will not let you get your way. Even if we die, our wills will exist forever. When our master returns, he will definitely imprison you for 10,000 years.